video, I'd just like to run through some principles and constants and formulas in the ideal gases chapter for A-level and IB physics. Let's start with what is an ideal gas? Well, an ideal gas is a gas which obeys the gas laws, i.e. for all collisions between particles are elastic and all collisions between particles and container walls are also elastic. Okay, what do we mean when we refer to a mole of a substance? Well, let's read. 1 mole of any substance is the amount of that substance which contains the same number of particles as there are in 0.012 kilograms of carbon-12. So that means in 12 grams of carbon-12 in this case, there is a certain number of carbon atoms in 12 grams of that. And that amount of atoms is what we refer to as 1 mole. So if a substance has 1 mole, it has that many atoms in it, or particles or molecules. Okay, so that brings us nicely on to our next question. What is Avogadro's constant or Avogadro's number? Well, Avogadro's number is just what we talked about. It's the number of atoms in 1 mole of a substance. So a mole of any substance, solid, liquid or gas, contains a number of particles, whether molecules or atoms, and that amount of particles in 1 mole of that substance is known as Avogadro's constant or Avogadro's number. So the value of Avogadro's number is 6.02 times 10 to the 23, and it's the same number of atoms in 12 grams of carbon-12. Okay, so what do we mean by molar mass? Well, molar mass is the amount in grams we need of a substance in order to have the same number of atoms or molecules as the number of atoms or molecules in 12 grams of carbon-12. Now this amount just happens to be equivalent to the mass number of the element or the mass number of the molecule. Okay, let's take a look at some formula for ideal gases. Number of moles of a substance equals mass of substance over molar mass. So if we want to know how many moles we have, we just need to have the mass of the substance and then divide that by the molar mass. Okay, then if we want to know the number of atoms in a certain amount of a substance we have, then we just take the number of moles we have of that substance and multiply it by Avogadro's number. Okay, moving down, some formula here. PV equals constant, that is Boyle's law. Pressure is inversely proportional to volume. P1 V1 equals P2 V2. This is for a gas at a constant temperature, and then if we change the volume or change the pressure of the gas, then we get a second set of results, which is P2 V2. Okay, next one, PV over T equals a constant. So that tells us that pressure, volume and temperature are related. PV equals 1/3 capital N small m and C squared. So PV again is pressure and volume, equals 1/3 big N, which is number of atoms, times by m, which is the mass of the substance, times by c, the average velocity of the particles. Okay, and then moving on down, the last part there is a half mc squared, which sounds familiar, doesn't it? Half mv squared, which is kinetic energy. In this case, it's the average transitional kinetic energy of the particles in the substance, which is equal to 3 times k times t divided by 2, which is where k is equal to Boltzmann constant, which we can find by looking up. Oh yeah, and we can read that as half mc squared equals 3/2 kt. That's the way to remember it. Half mc squared, or kinetic energy, is equal to 3/2 kt.